Hi, good morning everyone. Today I am starting a new series on BTech Semester 6 course which is Computer Networks. Welcome to my channel Knowledge Discovery. I am your facilitator Dr. Shivani Midda and this is my profile. I have also attached a link to my LinkedIn profile. So if you want you can just go and explore it. So if you talk about Computer Networks course, it is divided into 5 different units. In the first unit, I'll be teaching you introductory concepts and physical layer. The second unit is about the link layer or the data link layer. The third unit is about network. Fourth one is your transport layer. And fifth one is your application layer. Now let's see the detailed syllabus of each unit. If you talk about unit number 1, ideally there are 2 parts. The first one is introductory concepts, where I'll be teaching you from scratch how is a network created, what are the components of a network, what are the different types of networks like LAN, MAN, WAN, which you would have studied in school as well. Then how do you create architectures, what is a network structure, what is ISP, how does a OSI reference model allows even a small thing as your mail to go from a sender to a receiver, how does that flow happens. So we'll be talking about introductory concepts in Unit 1. The second part of Unit 1 will focus on physical layer. Now when I talk about physical layer, we are actually talking about the network architecture. So we'll discuss network topology designs, how do you make connections, how are you transferring data, are you using a wired medium or is it a wireless medium? What all parameters define your network performance and what are the different switching techniques? Definitely you will get a question on switching techniques and TCP/IP and OSI model in your question paper. More or less it's like 99.9999% that you will get a question. So when we'll prepare Unit 1, I'll also tell you what all questions have come in the previous exam. And once we complete all the 5 units, I'll also give you a question bank. Then in unit number 2, we'll talk about data link layer or the link layer. Now, if you talk about data link layer, your teachers would have taught you that there are frames at the second layer. So we'll talk about framing, how is error detection and correction done, how do you maintain flow of data between sender and receiver. You as a sender is continuously sending data. But again, whether the receiver has the capability to accept that data or not, or how do you manage all of that. So we'll talk about flow control, media access control, channel allocation, LAN standards, and switches and bridges, the devices that you would have seen in your computer labs. So all those things are part of unit number 2. In unit number 3, we'll talk about network layer. I hope you all would have, since you would be reading this course in the class as well, so you would have heard about the term IP address. What is IP? What is IPv4? What is IPv6? What if there is a congestion on the network? How do you manage it? How do you route your data from sender to receiver? So these topics will be covered under unit number 3. In unit number 4, we'll talk about transport layer. So we all know that it is responsible for process-to-process delivery. And there are 2 major protocols, UDP and TCP, which work at the transport layer. So we'll talk about them in detail. More or less a question comes on differentiate between TCP and UDP in the exam. So we'll prepare that as well. What are the different flow control techniques that manage the speed of the data? What is QoS? How is flow control at transport layer different from flow control at the data link layer? So we'll talk about all this in unit number 4. Finally, in unit number 5, we'll talk about application layer, where I'll teach you topics like DNS, what is an email, what are the components of an email, how does FTP work, in case if you're not close to your system, how do you do remote login, or how do you enable cryptography when you send your data over the network. So these 5 units we'll cover in this entire series on computer networks. I've also added a list of textbooks and references, so definitely you would have got few from your library. But again, I will be majorly using 2 books for my teaching. One is Frozen and the second one is Tenenbaum. So these 2 primarily I use, and at times I also refer to William Stallings for the data and computer communication. So the first 3 will be your major textbooks for this course. Thank you so much and stay connected. I'll be uploading the second session of this series tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye bye.